Good afternoon. In today's class, we will study the next topic, which is isomorphism of graphs. We often need to know whether it is possible to draw two graphs in the same way. Example, isomorphism is something you have studied the word isomorphism, I believe, in chemistry. Usually, in chemistry, we try to compare the compounds or the molecules, whether they have compounds actually, whether they have same molecular formula and they differ in structure. So, in that we use the word isomorphism if you are familiar with it. But in graphs, it is used to verify whether two graphs have the same structure. So this isomorphism is actually useful to check whether whether two graphs have the same structure. So to verify whether two graphs have same structure. So the definition can be given as the simple graph G1 is equal to V1, E1 and G2 is equal to V2, E2 are isomorphic if there exists a one-to-one and onto function f from V1 to V2 with the property that A and B are adjacent in G1 if and only if f of A and f of B are adjacent in G2 for all A and B in V1. Such a function is called isomorphism. Now what does this mean? This means that two simple graphs are isomorphic if there is a one-to-one correspondence between vertices of two graphs that preserves the adjacency of the adjacency relationship. Example, suppose before seeing the example, if two graphs are not isomorphic, we call them non-isomorphic. After that, graph invariants under isomorphism. Now what does this mean? What are the necessary but not sufficient? So these conditions are necessary, but sometimes they may not be sufficient for two graphs to be isomorphic. Definitely we have to check, but sometimes we have to check some other stuff also. So what are the conditions? The first condition is the number of vertices in graph G1 and the number of vertices in graph G2 must be equal. Then the next is number of edges in both the graphs should be equal. Then the number of vertices with degree n is the same in both graphs. Suppose in your graph, if you have two vertices with degree 1 and four vertices with degree 3, then this should be the same in both the graphs. Okay, so the number of vertices with the amount of degree should be same in both the graphs. That is, a vertex V of degree D in G must correspond to a vertex f of V of degree D in H, because a vertex W in G is adjacent to V if and only if f of V and f of W are adjacent in H. Now what does this mean? This means that suppose if you have a vertex A, it is connected to two edges, so the degree is 2. Then in the graph H or G2 also there should be a vertex which should be only connected to two edges. Okay, so the condition should be the number of edges a vertex is incident to must be the same. Now apart from that, for every proper subgraph G of one graph, there is a proper subgraph of the other graph that is isomorphic to G. Now in the earlier class, we have studied the concept of subgraph. Subgraph is basically you are taking some part of the graph. Whenever you take some part of the graph G, then from the other graph also if you take some part, both of those subgraphs should also be isomorphic. Subgraph 1 and subgraph 2 must be isomorphic. After that, let's see an example. Show that the graph G is equal to V, E and H is equal to W, F. V, E are the vertices and edges over here, while W, F are the same thing. W will be a vertices set and F will be the edge set. Displayed in the figure are isomorphic. Now over here, if you notice the two figures given, G and H, first and foremost, we have to multiply. So we'll see the conditions of the earlier slide. We have to check the number of vertices and the number of edges. So let's check that. Yeah, so we have 4 vertices in G, 4 vertices in H. So the first condition, first part is satisfied. How many edges? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 and 4. So 4 vertices, 4 edges. Similarly, 4 vertices and 4 edges. Both of these things are satisfied. After that, that is, we have a one-to-one correspondence between the vertices V and W. Apart from that, what about the edges? Yes, there are 4 edges and 4 edges. Now, we have to see the degree of the graph. So, to see the degree, if we compare f of u1 to f of v1, u1 is connected to u2 and u3. Okay, v1 is connected to v4 and v3. Basically, we are not seeing the similarity of the vertices, we are seeing the number of edges. So similarly over here, v2 is connected to 2 edges, u2 is also connected to 2 edges, and this continues with every other vertex. So if you notice the degree also, f of degree of u1, it should be in subscript, u1 is 2, u2 is 2, and all of them are 2. Okay, so the degree of u2 is equal to degree of u3 is equal to degree of u4. And similarly over here, degree of v1 is equal to 2, and all the others v2, v3 and v4 is also the same. So in that case, we can say clearly that our graph is isomorphic. So these are very simple actually, but sometimes it is difficult to determine whether two simple graphs are also isomorphic. So if I increase the number of vertices, instead of taking 4 vertices, suppose I take 40, and instead of taking 4 edges, if I take 80 edges, then what will happen? It will be very difficult to determine whether the two graph structures are same or isomorphic. And in that case, we will have to check all the possible variations of the edges, of the vertices, and also to compare whether one-to-one correspondence exists or not. So in that case, it is each correspondence is very difficult. So what we do is we check the degrees, and apart from that, we also check something known as paths, which we will study in the later topics. But for now, for two graphs which are very simple with less number of edges and vertices, what you have to do is you have to take 3 things: vertices, edges, degree. Apart from that, even if you create a subgraph for this graph, you will see that it is isomorphic. So you can see that the function f with f of u1 is equal to v1, f of u2 is equal to v4. So u2 is we are making it equal to v4. Okay, because v4 is connected to v1 and v2. Okay, so f of u3 is equal to v3 and f of u4 is equal to v2 is a one-to-one correspondence between v and w. To see that this correspondence preserves adjacency, note that the adjacent vertices in G are u1 and u2. Okay, so u1 and u2 are adjacent, u1 and u3 are also adjacent, u2 and u4, u3 and u4. And each of the pairs f of u1 is equal to v1, u2 is equal to v4, u1 is equal to v1, and u3 is equal to v3. All of these consist of the two adjacent vertices in H. So this is the way you are supposed to write the answer for isomorphic, checking whether two graphs are isomorphic or not. Also, this is actually very important. Isomorphism is an important topic, and it is usually under 5 or 7 marks from the topic graphs. So this is an important topic from this chapter. So please make sure you understand it. Now the next question is, we have to verify whether two graphs given over here are not isomorphic. So we have to show that the graphs are not isomorphic. In this case, I'll directly showing you the solution. So if you compare the two graphs, both G and H have 5 vertices and 6 edges. Okay, so they are almost the same. Instead of instead of this edge over here, we have it over here. Okay, but when you compare the degree, H has a vertex of degree 1, that is E's degree is 1, degree of E in this H graph is 1, but please find out any vertex whose degree is 1 in G. You can see that A has a degree of 2, B has a degree of 2, C has a degree of 3, D with a degree 2 and E with degree 3. But there is no vertex for which the degree is 1 in the graph G. So in this case, we can clearly say that it follows that G and H are not isomorphic. Okay. So this is an example for not isomorphic graph. Also, apart from that, if even the degree is same, sometimes we may even need to check the path. So basically, whenever we are talking about isomorphism, it is very difficult to check when the degrees on the when the vertices and the edges increase in a graph. Now the next thing is connectivity. The next topic is connectivity. In connectivity, what we usually do is we can create a lot of problems by using the concept of graph by creating paths by traveling along the edges. So suppose if we take an earlier example of the graphs over here. So if I am traveling along the edges from A to B, B to C and so on, even with the directions or without the directions, then we create a path. So the problems which we can solve by using the creation of paths is, suppose if we want to check whether a message can be sent between two computers. Okay. So for example, if I want to check whether a message can be sent between two computers using the shortest path or using the shortest distance. So that can be studied with graphs. Also problems of mail delivery, that is these days we have parcel deliveries by different online shopping websites or even food delivery and garbage pickup. All these kinds of problems can be efficiently solved by using graphs, the concept of graphs or the topic graph theory. And also what we can do is we can solve these problems by using models that involve paths in graphs. That is, we can create a graph by using various techniques and then we can create a path between the graph to model our problem. So let's see the same. What is a path definition? So informally or a general definition is a path is a sequence of edges. It is a sequence of edges that begins at a vertex of a graph and travels from vertex to vertex along the edges of a graph. So if you have a graph in this way, yeah. So this is your A, B, C, D, E and F. Then if I am creating a path from A to F, I can travel from A to C, C to D and D to F, or I can travel A to B, B to C, C to D, D to F. So basically, whenever we are starting from a vertex and traveling along different edges to reach our destination, then it is known as a path. Let n be a non-negative integer and G an undirected graph. A path of length n from U to V in G is a sequence of n edges E1 and so on up to En for G, for which there exists a sequence x0 is equal to U, x1 and so on up to xn minus 1. Xn is the last, so U is our beginning vertex and V is our terminal vertex, and in between we choose a path through which we travel. So all those vertices are mentioned. such that our path's length is 1 to n and the endpoints are xi minus 1 and xi. Now what does this mean? This means that suppose if we are traveling along a path, if we are traveling along a graph, then we have to travel along the edges in such a way that our initial vertex is u and the terminal vertex is v. Or we can even say that if there is a sequence, we give the u value to x0 and the v value to xn. When the graph is simple, we denote this path by its vertex sequence x0, x1 and so on up to xn. That is, if we are writing the path of this graph, so we can mention it by writing A, C, D, F, where A is your initial vertex and F is the terminal vertex. And the path is a circuit if it begins and ends at the same vertex. So if your path is beginning at A and again you are coming back to A, suppose A, C, I'll just write it over here, A, C, D, E, B and A. So from here you are going to C, then D, then E, then B and A. So when you are traveling in this way where your initial and the terminal vertices are the same, then that path is a circuit. That is, if u is equal to v and has length greater than 0, the path or circuit is said to pass through the vertices x1, x2, xn minus 1 or traverse the edges e1, e2 and so on up to en. A path or circuit is simple if it does not contain the same edge more than once. Suppose if we are traveling through the edges and we are traveling through each edge only once, each edge is being traversed or navigated through only once. That is, we are going through that edge only once. We are not going multiple times on the same edge. Suppose if I am going from here, A to C, C to D, E to B, B to A. Each edge I am traveling once. Instead of that, suppose if I am taking A to B, B to E, E to D, C to A, and again A to B. In that case, if I am traveling this edge twice, it won't be a simple path or circuit. If I am traveling the edge only once, then it will be a simple path or circuit. Now, after that, let's see an example to understand all the terms. In the simple graph shown in the figure, let's see the figure. Yeah. So over here, we have A, D, C, F, E. A, D, C, F, E. So let's take that from A, we are going to D. Yeah. This I'm just going through the path. Then from D, I am traversing through C, the edge DC, then C to F, and then F to E. So first and foremost, is it starting and ending at the same vertex? No, it is starting at A and ending at E. So it is not a circuit, it is a path. And is it traveling through one edge twice or more than once? No. So it is a simple path. What is the length? We have to count the number of edges. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the length is 4 because AD, DC, CF and FE are all edges. Now the next path will be DECA. So we are going from D to E. Yeah, D to E we have an edge. So yes, we can traverse. Then after that we have E to C. E to C is not possible, or we cannot traverse E to C because there is no edge. So hence it is not a path. So because EC is not an edge, it is not a path. Now after that, what about BCFED? So let's see that. From B to C, then C to F, so C to F, then F to E and E to B. Yes, first and foremost, it is starting at B and ending at B. It is a circuit, and also it is not traversing any edge twice, so it is a simple circuit. It is a circuit and it is also simple. Now what about the length? The length is 4. Okay, so basically there are 3 things to be checked. First is whether it is a path or a circuit. The next is whether it is simple or it is not simple. Simple means each edge being traversed only once, and we also have to find the length. Okay, after that we have another path. So the path is ABEDAB. So we are starting at A, going to B, then after that E, then we have D, then A, and then finally B again. So AB is being traversed twice, so it is not simple. It is not simple as mentioned here. After that, is it a path or a circuit? It is a path because it is starting at A and ending at B. So it is a path. And also, what is the length? 1. So we are starting from AB actually. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the length is 5. And if you notice, we are counting AB twice because we are traversing through AB edge twice. So we have to count it twice. Okay. So now, apart from that, we have paths and circuits in directed graph also. So for that, you can refer back to your relations topic. So here we will give you a few more definitions. Suppose if n is a non-negative integer and G is a directed graph. So earlier, all this definition and the example we have seen is for undirected graph. Now we will be seeing for paths in, let me just mention it in the heading, directed graph. So for paths in directed graph, let n be a non-negative integer and G a directed graph. A path of length n from U to V in G is a sequence of edges E1, E2 and so on up to En of capital G such that E1 is associated with x0, x1, E2 is associated with x1, x2 and so on, where x0 is your initial vertex and xn is the term. When there are no multiple edges in the directed graph, this path is denoted by the vertex sequence x0, x1, x2 and so on up to xn. A path of length greater than 0 that begins and ends at the same vertex is called a circuit or a cycle, which you already know. A path or circuit is called simple if it does not contain the same edge more than once. The same thing which we have already studied in undirected graphs. Now, we will see connectedness in undirected graph, but before that, remember that we have already, there will be sometimes different definitions used for path. So in the textbook that we are referring, we also use, instead of path, sometimes in other textbooks, they use the terminology walk, closed walk. So instead of path, they use walk, and instead of circuit or cycle, it may be closed walk. So different terminologies are used. Don't get confused. The definitions will be the same. Only the final term will be changed. Now, after that, connectedness in undirected graph. An undirected graph, when we have a computer network, then we have the property of every pair of computers can share the information. So when is there always a path between two vertices in the graph? So basically, we check whether we can send from one vertex to any other vertex in the graph some information. So that concept is being studied in this connectedness in undirected graph. An undirected graph is called connected if there is a path between every pair of distinct vertices of the graph. So suppose if you remember the concept of wheels. In wheels, so this was V4, let me just draw it. Or even cycle of 3 vertices. So this is W4 and this is here C3. Okay. So in this graph, if you notice, each vertex is connected to every other vertex. Or even in complete graph. Complete graph will be where every vertex is connected to every other vertex. This is K4. Okay. So, and all of these graphs are called connected graph. Why? Because every pair of distinct vertices, we have a edge. And whenever an undirected graph that is not connected is called disconnected. Now instead of this, if I add a simple cycle with 4 vertices. Now this vertex, suppose I am naming it as A, B and C. A and C are not connected, okay? A and C are not connected, but if we see it from here, A to B, B to C, it is connected. So basically, if there is a path, then we can say that it is connected. But suppose if I have A to B, B to C, and then there is another random vertex placed F, and we have a vertex D, okay, and after that these D and F are not connected to A, B, C, and let's name this vertex as E. Okay, there is no criteria that you have to mention the vertices how I am mentioning it. You can mention it with any single digit, either small letter convention. If you're follow the same small letter. So usually the convention is that you have to use a small letter for naming the vertices and a capital letter to name the entire graph. So this can be a graph G or H or A, anything. So now we see that we disconnect a graph when we remove vertices or edges or both to produce a disconnected subgraph. So suppose if from this graph I am removing the vertex C, okay, let's name it over here again, A, B, C, D. Okay, so this is vertex D. So if I am removing the vertex D from this graph, then what will happen is all the edges which are connecting to D also will be removed. So the graph will become something like this: A, B, C, and we are removing the vertex from A to D, B, D, and C, D. So it has become a graph K3. Okay, K4 has become K3. Apart from that, suppose if I am removing a vertex A from here, then what will be this graph? This will become B, C, and E. So these are basically your subgraphs, right? They are some part of your actual graph. So these are subgraphs and they produce disconnected subgraphs. Now let's see a few examples. Sometimes the removal from a graph of a vertex and all the edges, incident edges means all the edges that are connected to that vertex, produces a subgraph with more connected components. Such vertices are called cut vertices, okay, or articulation points. Now apart from that, we have the removal of a cut vertex from a connected graph produces a subgraph that is not connected. And when an edge whose removal produces a graph with more connected components than in the original graph is called cut edge or. Now the next example is find the cut vertices and cut edges in the directed graph G1 as shown in the figure. So in this graph, if you notice, what do you mean by cut vertices? If I remove a vertex, then the graph should have more components which are connected. So this is one entire graph. If I remove even one vertex in such a way that the vertex, if I remove, the graph will be divided into two parts, okay, or I'll get two subgraphs. So if I remove A, the entire graph will be still connected, okay. So if I remove A, it is still connected. What if I remove B? If I remove B, then what will happen is A will be disconnected and I am removing the vertex B completely. Then what will happen is D and C will be in this way, okay, and then we will have E, F, G, H, G, and this way. Now A is alone, or A is a vertex which is not connected to any other vertex by an edge. That is, we cannot reach A. Okay, this has become into two components. What do I mean by cut vertex? Is basically I'm deleting that vertex. Now the next is the vertex C. What if I remove C? What will happen? I'll get A, B, and B is connected to D, while C is not there. So this connection will be gone. We will have F, G, H, and E separately in this way. So we have got two components. So this is also a cut vertex. So by now we know that B is a cut vertex, C is a cut vertex. But what about D? If I delete D from the graph, nothing will be changed. That is, we will be removing these two edges, but the entire graph will be still connected. So D is not a cut vertex. Now what about E? If I remove E, again, how it was similar to C, the graph will become into two subgraphs basically, or it will be divided, that is, the graph will be disconnected. So E is also a cut vertex, and you can verify that when I remove F, G and H, the graph will still remain the same. Now what about the cut edges? If if the edge AB is removed, okay, then I cannot reach the vertex A. So any edge if you remove, the entire graph will be disconnected. So let's see the solution. The cut vertices of G1 are B, C and E. The removal of one of these vertices and its adjacent edges disconnects the graph. The cut edges are AB and CE. So if I remove AB, then what will happen is A and B, this will become disconnected, that is the vertex A, and also vertex A will be removed. And similarly, if this edge is removed, the CE edge, then also the graph will become disconnected. But what about any other edge? If I remove FG, F and G will be still connected to E and H. So in this way you can verify for all the other edges. Now after that, we have this vertex cut and vertex connectivity. It is not really important, but for familiarity, we'll see the definition. A subset V of the vertex set V of G is a vertex cut or a separating set if G minus V is disconnected. For instance, in our graph, the set DCE is a vertex cut. So this entire three vertices are, if we write them together in a set, then those will be known as vertex cut. Why? Because they are disconnecting the graph. We define the vertex connectivity of a non-complete graph G denoted by this Greek symbol chi, or C is basically CHI, as the minimum number of vertices in a vertex cut. Okay. Now after that, find the vertex connectivity for each of the graphs in the figure. So what do you mean by vertex connectivity? Vertex connectivity is the minimum number of vertices in a vertex cut. So these are the graphs for G1, the minimum number is 3. But we also know that even if we remove 1, suppose if I am removing B, then also our graph will be disconnected. So what will be the minimum number? In that case, the minimum number is 1. So each of the 5 graphs in the given figure, the figure is given here actually, is connected and has more than vertex. Okay. So each of these graphs has a positive vertex connectivity. So for G1, our vertex connectivity is 1. For G2 also, even if I remove one vertex, it will be disconnected. So vertex connectivity is 1. After that, for G3, if you notice, there is no vertex cut, because any vertex if I remove, the graph will still be connected. Okay, if I am removing A, we have the entire graph connected. If I am removing C, the entire graph will still be connected. So for G3, there is no vertex cut. Similarly, you can check for G4 and G5 by pausing the video. After that, we have connectedness in directed graph. A directed graph is strongly connected if there is a path from A to B and from B to A whenever A and B are vertices in the graph. What does this mean? So basically, there are two types of connectedness in directed graphs. One is strongly connected and the other is weakly connected. It depends, this strongly and weakly connected, it depends on the direction of the edges. Depends on the direction of edges. So the graph will be strongly connected if we have paths from A to B and B to A, and it will be weakly connected if there is a path between every two vertices in the underlying undirected graph. So weakly connected means basically When there is a path between two vertices and the directions are not considered, then it is a weakly connected graph. Let's take an example. So these are the two example graphs that I have drawn. The graphs are G and H. Now suppose if I have the definition of strongly connected is given. If there is a path from A to B, a directed graph is strongly connected if there is a path from A to B. So let's take the A and B vertices of our G graph, and from B to A. So from B, I don't have a direct path, but I have an indirect path, right? From B to D, I can go, and then D to E, E to A. Okay. So from B, I am going to D, and then E, and then A. So I am reaching B to A somehow. It may be indirected, but there is a path. Now in this graph H, if you notice, there is a path from B to A. Okay. But if I want to reach from A to B, there is no such path, because from A we cannot go to B, and from A I cannot go to E. A is the terminal vertex or the ending vertex in both the cases, but it is not the initial. So from A, I cannot go to B. From A to B is not possible, but B to A is possible. That is, for every pair of vertices, we have to verify this. From B to C, you can see. What about C to A, C to D, D to E, and E to A? So in this graph G, please stop the video, create the graph, and verify that you can go from each vertex in this graph to any other vertex by using a direct path or an indirect path. But in this graph H, it is not possible. So this G is a strongly connected graph, while H is a weakly connected graph. Now after that, we have paths and isomorphism. There are several ways that paths and circuits can help determine whether two graphs are isomorphic. For example, suppose if we have a simple circuit of a particular length, then we can show that two graphs are not isomorphic. If we have a simple circuit, in one graph of length 4 and in the other graph of length 5, and we cannot create a simple circuit of length 4, then those two graphs are not isomorphic. You can take the examples of isomorphism we have studied earlier and try to check the condition again. In addition, paths can be used to construct mappings that may be isomorphic or isomorphism. Now determine whether the graphs displayed in the figure are not isomorphic or isomorphic. We have to check whether the graphs are isomorphic or not. So in this case, both of them have 6 vertices. Okay, 6 vertices and 8 edges. So both the graphs have 6 vertices and 8 edges. 6 vertices, 8 edges. And also apart from that, if you count the number of degrees, so 4 vertices have degree 2, have degree 3 actually, and 2 vertices have degree 2. Okay. After that, now the next thing is, by looking at the figure, it is looking as if the graphs are isomorphic, but since we are using paths in isomorphism, we will check the path. Actually, we will check a circuit with length 3 in the graph H. So in the graph H, if you notice, from V1, V2, V6 and V1, this circuit, why am I calling it a circuit? Because the initial vertex and the terminal vertex both are the same. So this vertex length is 3. So 1, 2, 3. I am traveling this way or traversing in this way. But try to find a circuit of length 3 in the graph G. So if I try to check any circuit, so if I am going from U1 to U2, then again to reach back to U1, I have to take U5, U6 and U1. Or even if I try from U1, U6, U3, U2 and U1. So basically the length is increasing to 4. So in the graph H, we have a circuit of length 3, but in the graph G, we don't have a circuit of length 3. So that is the reason the graphs are not isomorphic. So this is a extended concept of isomorphism basically. That is, whenever we are talking about isomorphism, we have to check in graphs which have less number of edges and less number of vertices. It is very easy because we can just check the vertices, edges, and the degree. But suppose if the graphs vertices and edges are increasing, or it is a graph in which we have more number of vertices and more number of edges, then it is difficult to find. So this is another criteria, that is checking the length of paths or circuits. Okay, so this is another example. Let me give you the solution. Both G and H have 6 vertices and 8 edges. Each has 4 vertices of degree 3 and 2 vertices of degree 2. You can just verify the number degrees of each vertex yourself. And apart from that, so if we see that number of edges, number of vertices, and the degree is all the same, but whenever we are considering about the circuit, the two graphs are not being isomorphic. So because the existence of a simple circuit of length 3 is an isomorphic invariant, hence G and H are not. So basically, whenever we are considering about isomorphism, we have to look at a number of features. And existence of the simple circuit of length, given length, is also a feature. That is the reason our given graphs are not isomorphic. Now the next is counting paths between vertices. The number of paths between two vertices in a graph can be determined using adjacency matrix. So let's see the example first, then we will look at the definition. How many paths of length 4 are there from A to D in a simple graph G given in the figure? So this is your graph G. How many paths are there from A to D? And what should be the path length? Length is 4. Now, in this case, first and foremost, what we have to do is we have to consider the adjacency matrix. This adjacency matrix we have already studied, so just create an adjacency matrix by yourself by pausing the video. You can verify it here. After that, to get the solution for your question, what you have to do is, what is the length? The length is 4. So you have to find the matrix A power 4. Okay. So the matrix A power 4. After that, what is the matrix A power 4? You have to multiply A 4 times. The matrix A 4 times. This is the resulting matrix. Now in this matrix, we wanted to know how many paths are there from A to D. So in the given matrix, what we have to do is, from A to D, how many, whatever the number is, that will be the number of paths from A to D. Okay, so that is the number of paths from A to D. So that means there are totally 8 paths, 8 different paths from A to D. And by inspection of the graph, or by just looking at the graph, we can find those 8 paths which are given here. So please write all these paths and verify the same in the graph given here. Okay, now let's see the definition. The definition is as follows. Let G be a graph with adjacency matrix A with respect to the ordering V1, V2, and so on up to Vn of the vertices of the graph, with either directed or undirected edges. So for counting the paths, it doesn't matter whether the edges are directed or undirected. And in the graph, even multiple edges and loops are allowed. The number of different paths of length R. If the length is R, then we have to find the matrix A power R. Okay. And from Vi to Vj, where R is a positive integer, equals the ijth entry. So if our vertex is V1, A was V1 and D was V4. So we have to take the 1, 4 entry in the matrix A power 4. That is how we can count the paths, how many paths are there between two vertices. Okay. Now for this specific problem, the graph may be directed, undirected, have multiple edges, loops. That is fine as long as you can create an adjacency matrix and find the A power R entry.